So this document, I had already like planned out how like sort of like we're gonna do or develop on the actual code base. I got it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So let's go to Trello then. Okay, I feel like this looks bad. Why? Why does it look like I'm kicked out of Trello? So, but I use too many browsers. So
We're using the same browser. It looks like you have a tab open. Oh no, it's not.
yeah, no, I've been kicked out.
Okay, you're gonna need to log in again.
So there's a shortcut. Yeah, copy the password on a program like you.
Okay. Shortcut. What's the shortcut?
Like Control B. So, but I mix it up sometimes. Like so, when you hear got the screen, and maybe like I want to copy like I was busy copying big baguette. Anyway, I've mixed it up.
These are all your passwords, eh?
Yeah, these are all my passwords. All right, cool. So logged in, and then we are working on Kingdom Log, ne?
Yes.
So let's open that guy up. I think like instead of file management there, we can still put the whole thing, yeah, Kingdom Log into an S3 baguette. Or like because of like my original plan for that document was to have like a file management going on within like the computer itself. I get when a computer always has like a hard drive, I got. So my idea of file management was like that hard drive. Like we're gonna use that hard drive to store things and configure things from there. But I think let's just put everything on S3 baguette, because this way, or whatever happens to that computer, like the files go fail and stored on that baguette. Yeah, since like it's easy, like the S3 baguette AWS in an API thing like makes it easy for you to like store things, retrieve things, like if you give videos to play them, stream them as if like for YouTube, whatever that you want. Or okay, so that will solve that. Like so, then these two become one thing. But then
sure, yeah.
We can keep them as separate tasks like that. Fine. And then another thing, Ellen Sharp got trade on it. I don't know if I showed you this, but all these checklists you can convert them into cards, and it's gonna convert it into card and EVA gonna like around here.
Oh, okay. I've seen the option, but I've never really clicked on it. Oh, okay, that's nice actually.
So we're gonna convert all of these guys into cards, ne? Like that. Like I wanted to develop Kingdom Log to a point more like everyone who feel comfortable on. Like if someone is coming from background, yeah, my SQL, like you feel comfortable on. If someone is coming from a point of view, yeah, MongoDB and like I don't know SQL databases, still I feel comfortable on one. So Microsoft SQL, I'm gonna move it there because right now we're gonna start with MongoDB. So that's why I'm able to change between like writing a Python code and then like making notes.
Cool.
All right, so we have Vault and the Docker file and the HCL file and the admin.htcl file. All right, cool. So that was good. So Terraform, Leonas, like some of the Terraform files, like they also like look like this. So sometimes I get confused between HCL files and Terraform files. But anyway, and here we have our code for Python. Let's go back to our document. So on our document here, like I already like sort of like set up the paths, or like the address space, and like we'll need to route to in order to take like this API of ours, and like sort of like the response code and then like success and sort of like the data that might be needed for us to send to that API. Oh,
Okay.
so I think for today until 11, then we can work on like initialization and configuration of Kingdom Lock. Ne?
Sure.
All right, so we had that code from yesterday, so that's dope. And then I'm trying to think. I think we can make this application on a Docker container, but going online, I don't know if it's gonna run on Docker. But anyway, let's just create a Docker file for it. A file.
Why you not sure it's gonna run on Docker online?
Eh?
Why are you not sure if we're gonna run it on Docker when we go online?
Well, because of like online, there are other like sweet options to put it that way. Like,
Sweet.
yeah, Docker is sweet. Ne? Docker is sweet too. Like, I'll say like beautiful solutions. Like, I really enjoy like something very beautiful, like something that works the way I think it should work. You know. So language support. So this one has like a lot of downloads. Sometimes now that's how I know what I should download, because people they will tell you. So syntax highlighting, and then da-da-da. Okay, so yeah, this is what I needed. There we go. All right. So yeah, I think the log file is sort of like keeping track. Oh, nice. So it even added support for the log file. Perfect. Tom's obvious minimal language. Okay. So someone created this language by their name. That's dope.
Oh. Okay.
That's dope. So it's only the YAML files. So like the programming language, that like I'm sure like you already know from like your computer basics from like university already. Like only low level languages and only high level languages, right? So the high level languages they still have like compilers and by the time Turing complete encryption.
I remember the Turing machines and whatnot.
Yeah, so like it went from the machines to now like programming languages also doing that. So Python, JavaScript, that's why I can encrypt that look at Python, that's why I can encrypt that look into. Like that's why, like, do you know PKI? PKI, no. Okay, so you can Google it from that site, né? But basically it's called public key infrastructure. So as a way you encrypt that so that even though they are public, they're still encrypted somehow. So it's the way like SSL thing, it's the way like encrypt them even though they're still public, everyone can still access them. But like only the person or who's meant to see what's going on, they'll see what's going on. Everyone else they'll see random encrypted strings or whatever.
Okay, you're right. No, I see.
So like all those solutions like they started from the Turing machine and from that Turing guy, ne? Alan Turing. So, but let's go back again because of university what this thing. Like it's bothering me. Sometimes I need to know this. So Turing test, okay. And then if I say Turing complete, because Turing complete is a term used in computability to describe abstract machine. They are called automation. Such as an automation in Turing complete, if it can be used to emulate a Turing machine, it is also called Such an automation is Turing complete if it can be used to emulate a Turing machine. Okay. It is also called computationally universal. Alright, so most modern languages are Turing complete. Alright, so
Turing complete.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we have a Docker file for Vault, we have a Docker file for the actual application, the main application, ne? And then now we need to work on the initialization, ne? So initialization and configuration. Alright, so anyway, let's do poetry at Flask because I know. So Flask, we're gonna use it to build our web server, ne?
Yeah.
So I don't know if you know about Flask.
Flask, is it not used for REST APIs and whatnot? Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the one. Alright, so documentation. I like always start with documentation, because if you can understand documentation, what these guys they were trying to do, like from the creators themselves, then by the time we have about Stack Overflow and stuff like that, they're like, oh, okay, I know what you guys have been trying to do. So anyway, some of the topics we already know about them, like you know them like intuitively by understanding computers, ne? Like it's only Python the dependencies, like like every project they build down from Vue to like this one here, Python only dependencies, certain like libraries that are installed. Ne? Visual environments, you already know about it. Both Docker visual environments, and then it's just that like there's a difference, only the visual machines and only the Docker, the containers, and then so only visual machines, only containers, and then only Python, which Python create like its own visual environments. Ne? So if I come here on our application and I say poetry run, ne? Poetry is gonna go to the toml file, and if the toml file is gonna try to figure out what's going on with this application, ne? Then it's gonna see, okay, the name of the application is Kingdom Log, so I need to go and check the folder called Kingdom Log _, and then when it gets to this guy, then that's when you start asking like questions, which file to run, what's going on, blah blah blah. But then like during that process, it created like visual environment. Alright, so anyway, the dependencies arena, for instance, yesterday, which is keepers, HVAC, which is HashiCorp Vault, and then request, which is in order to send the request to other web servers and other APIs, whatever. Ne?
Okay.
And then Flask itself is going to allow us to create a REST API, a web server. Ne? This is your minimal application that you can develop to start things working. Ne? All right, cool. So let's copy that code and go to our main here and paste it like that. Yeah. All right. So Visual Studio Code is gonna keep on highlighting my code as if like only errors, but if there are errors, we don't want to go terminal, because from here these errors cannot be trusted. You know why?
Why?
Because we're using a visual environment. So that means the visual environment knows about Flask, but my main machine doesn't know about Flask. So it thinks, like this code is gonna fail. So that's why it's showing me the errors.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
So it looks like it hasn't synced the two to be able to be aware of the Flask.
No, it cannot sync the two because of, remember, the visual environments, they are isolated. Let's run our main guy. Ne? So it's gonna say poetry run, and then first before run our poetry run. So I want to see where do they explain this. Okay, there we go. So I want to mock, but you can export command line now. You can export and then give an environment variable called Flask app and assign like your application, your file, basically your file that's running like your application. Ne? So more about hello.py, because of, I think maybe my example more could they tell you to create like a hello.py. Sure, no, just save it as a hello.py. So that's why I'm going to export it as a hello.py. But right now I'm gonna take this, copy, and then let's more paste it, and then we're gonna say our app is main.py, like that. Ne? All right, so I'm gonna export another thing, probably maybe no more. Export, and I'm gonna say Flask environment, so which is the environment so what you're gonna say to development. So if you set your Flask environment to development, it's gonna show you all the errors, how failure is happening. It's gonna expose all the password and whatever configuration that you have on your file. But if you flip the switch and then turn it into like
what?
Oh yeah, like
expose password.
yeah, it's gonna expose them because of receptivity to development, right? And when you're developing, you want to debug things, so it's gonna expose
Oh
them.
yeah. Okay.
So, but then when
Okay.
we run it on production, like we're gonna set this environment into production. So this way, it's gonna know, oh, this is production. It's gonna expose like
Oh, yeah.
where
Good
things went wrong.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna know this person were like
Mm-hmm.
things went wrong, but it's gonna sorry, where did it go wrong?
Mm-hmm.
But let's try it. So we're gonna say poetry run like this. I think it should print out the options. Okay, then print out the options.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like opportunity team, yada yada. Okay, cool. So let's say poetry. Okay, there is our options. So runs a command in the appropriate environment. Bravo. So that means it's gonna create its own visual environment. So more, we're gonna run poetry run, and then we're gonna say flask run. Right? So this also might fail because all right, there we go. So but then it's failing, it says address is already in use. Poetry run. And it's because I need to say flask run. So poetry run
Yes.
is like automa poetry or it created that visual environment. And then flask run is a command that will normally run to just that flask. Ne?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so there we go. It's running, and one area is running on the environment of development and it's running on this web address. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's copy
Okay.
that address and let's go see what will happen. Because this is their documentation, so we trust their documentation. So let's see documentation. And voila. And it's true.
Hello world.
So which is the hello world that we see here. Another thing about like the development environment is that once we settle to development environment, every time we change a code, like it will hard reload itself. So it's gonna restart itself from scratch. Ne? So if I say that and I say instead of hello world, I say hello kingdom lock. Like that. And save. I want more fast, more common. Like it reloaded itself. I don't know if you saw.
Oh, without you clicking the what's this thing, the run.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually you didn't. I see.
And if you go back to this guy and I refresh, so it's gonna say hello kingdom lock. You see?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So now we have Flask ready to save. So that means we can start working on the document now. Ne? That documentation has another documentation that we can go to, or we can start around for maybe like you see, like on Stack Overflow. The other people also like doing blog posts, whatever, explaining it. I like Geeks for Geeks. So like Geeks for Geeks, like normally I like the way they also like explain things. So I think let's start there first because like Stack Overflow normally like there's a programmer and they have a problem and they are stuck and then banyaga solution. But for there's also Geek for Geeks or the blog post where now you just want to get to the point and they're gonna explain like how to get to the point real quickly. Ne? All right, so look at this. Ne? So I'm gonna paste there and we're gonna add Flask RESTful. Ne? And we go to our Tom file and you see it added Flask RESTful from version 0.38. So there we go. Yeah, so this sign here, it means what like next time we run our application and then we install it from scratch, then it's gonna look for any latest version. So this is like either install from like this version or any latest version that you find. Right? All right, cool. So now we have the Flask RESTful in there. So if you check our application, which is another thing really great about Poetry, né? Poetry it created this thing for in a way your application can have like 0.01 version of it, né? And then like as we're working on it, then we can upgrade it. the same way like these guys they're doing like version for their program, because things are not gonna be perfect first try. As soon as we run it, maybe they are shorter. Like as I told you, I don't know if I told you this, but maybe I think I explained it in using other words. But yeah, like we're gonna do like the MVP. Like we're not gonna try and get like everything to up to 100% at one go, but we're gonna do like that's what even usable at the moment. As long as it's usable and we're gonna create a pipeline for where we can like deploy it faster, then we can like continue developing it and then like changing the vision more okay, as improving it, as fixing the bugs, whatever, what you like.
Sure.
Alright, cool. So I like things that have comments. So using Flask RESTful, creating the Flask app, creating an API. Alright, so let's create an API because we haven't created it. So let's create an API object. So not only like calling this thing an app if it's not meant to be an app, not like. So this is meant to be a server only, so it's not an application. Like this is not something people are gonna use. This is gonna be a server. It's only gonna be saving the request. So we're gonna call it a server, né? And our server is gonna have an API, so that part is fine, né? Then in here, though, like inside the function, the API, we're gonna pass in our server object like that, né? All right, cool. So that's fine. So there are no errors, but let's remove this part like that, so that because that's the old version. And then so you see, you create a class and you pass in like a resource, this guy into the class, and then from there then you can say, okay, when there's a get method, do this. When there's a post method, do that. So this is what I like about it. So we're gonna copy this guy and then paste him here. More. I'm gonna remove the comments because we don't need those guys. Like that. And I'm gonna remove that. I'm gonna leave only the code example. Okay, so status code. So this is how to retain their status codes. All right, so I sort of like that a bit. Okay, so what is our resource? So the first resource that we're gonna set up, okay, let's go to our second browser. So our document here, the first we're gonna set up is the master resource, né? So before initialization or configuration starts, there needs to be a master, or auto handling like all of that, né? So when we get the master, that's when we try to understand what the master at this thing. I get. So for now, we can leave it as that guy. Maybe we can like leave ourselves a comment here, a note, and say to do like that, and say so yeah. So like certain keywords, like even in comments, they'll have like certain highlights because of it's sort of like it's one of sort of like the nice things about just as developers, like okay, we know what we're going to do is a reminder for ourselves. So to do, like when I say return all the information that is to return about the master. Yeah? Now I'm just thinking, what can we separate this? I think we can separate it, Joe. Like let's separate it. Like we're gonna lay out our files again. Like we're not gonna try to jump heavy into the logic itself and everything. We're gonna isolate the master, né? So since we're gonna isolate the master, let's see. So our API will always need the server object, and the server will always need the Flask object, né? And then the master needs a resource but doesn't need API, né? All right, so then let's cut that guy, let's paste him in there, and then let's copy this guy because we don't want to delete him yet. But we're gonna leave the API there instead of having the resource there. The resource, they're each gonna have like their own class. Alright, so this side we're not gonna need the API, we only need the resource, ne? Okay, so now we're adding those resources. Okay, cool. That's fine. And on the npm run. So I think later now let's do like a simple thing where you can run and see if things are failing or things are running, ne? Alright, so for now, that's fine. That's fine. Let's remove this guy like that and save. And then let's come here. And then what we're gonna do now is we're gonna import, eh? We're gonna say import. Nope, we're gonna say from master like this because we are importing from our file, ne? Import, and then we're gonna import our class. And then import. And then we're gonna import the master, ne? Like this. So tomorrow got like something similar. Do you see it? Like look at how they did it also, ne? They said from Flask import Flask with a capital letter, which means for this Flask is probably a class. And then from Flask RESTful import API, which is a capital letter, which means this API is also a class. And if you know the classes get objects. Classes get object. That's why I was telling you already, like I'm passing this object into the API, right? And some objects, or like some objects, they can also be functions, ne? All right. That might be confusing a little bit because as I say things, I try to analyze them already to just check what does it make sense. Okay? So what I'm trying to say is, ne? Remember what I don't know if you remember the kind of objects that we have. We have arrays, they're also objects. We have JSON, which is also an object for JavaScript. And then like equivalent of a JSON for Python is called a dictionary, ne? And then equivalent of an array for Python is called a list, ne? Python has two objects that are known as identity variables, ne? Those objects are list and dictionary, ne? And then like the other objects are a class and a function. They are also objects, ne? All right, cool. So that is Python. And then what we call list for Python, we call it an array for JavaScript and for Java and maybe other programming languages, including PHP. To this guy, to our main guy. Ne? So our main guy, we're gonna say, okay, we're gonna add a resource there, but instead of calling square like that, we're gonna say is the master, and the master is gonna go to the master route like that. Ne? Book, and then like it's a very long time like thing, which like by now like they turn into like I think 5-6 movies. All right, cool. So we're importing the master array there from the file. So dot is like telling Python, or okay, the dot go to the root directory in here, right? Because if we just say master like this, it's gonna try and like look into like the libraries that are in our visual environment, right? But here's what I like to do, because like I think from Python 3.5 they start improving it, and they were like, no, even if it's a file, like still remove the dot, and then you're still able to find it. But what I like to do is like do a try and catch method, right?
Okay.
So Python is called try and except. So like by the exceptions, right? So I'm gonna copy and paste that import in there, and so we're gonna try to import this. And if it fails and it doesn't like I want to import this thing, then we're gonna accept. Then I'm gonna say accept import error like that, and then we're not gonna like export it to like a variable. So if you export it to like any variable and say like accept import error as error, then you can print the error there. I can show you. You can print the error there, which is gonna show up in our console. And then we can try it again and say since we have that exception, then try just doing from master, import master, like that. Man,
Mm-hmm.
does it make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So now we have that, and our master, when we do a get, is gonna say hello master. So for now, we're not gonna protect it. We just put that to do to remind ourselves, we need to protect it. Okay? I'm gonna remove that guy, and then let's come back here and see. So since we have everything that we need to have, then let's do a 483 run plus run like that, and nothing has failed yet. Ne? So let's go to our web server, which I think was running on Reja. There's our web server. If you refresh, it's gonna give us an error, not found. Ne? So I'm gonna agree. Do you know why it's to be great?
No.
Remember, I deleted that route there in your index. Remember, like when it comes to URL, we have like the routes and how we navigate our applications. So because of I removed like the index one, which is the /1, like that's why it says not found. Ne?
Okay.
The one that I created is the one that goes to /master, right?
Yeah.
So now if I go back there and say /master, then it should able to give us that message here in hello master, ne? Like that. But then it's not giving us that option. There's an error, right? Which is a good thing. This is why we love errors, right? Like I know, sorry, when you're working with Kobo and stuff like that, you start fearing errors because just the environment alone, like these businesses have created. When something fails, is a bad thing. Everyone should panic or tell it. But I think the reason why now I'm enjoying what I'm doing now, and the reason why maybe like I always feel excited about it, it doesn't feel like work anymore, is because of like the errors. They become this thing that I play with. Like code, it becomes this thing like where I can look at it as a playground, where I can like still feel like I'm a kid. If you come back to this side, you're gonna realize, or like from Flask, they're importing Flask, JSONify, and request, right? And then if you go back to our application, you realize, or like we're importing Flask from here, but on our master we're not importing like JSONify, but we are using JSONify there, né? And then you can see like we're also using request, but we're not importing
request as well,
right? So let's go back and then copy this line. So on this line though, gotta paste at this side. When you paste it this side, let's paste it at the top because Flask is the main guy, né? So when you paste it this side, we don't need Flask from this side. We only need JSONify and request later, né? So we're gonna save, and when we finish saving, alright. So I want you to check something. So like you see, it printed those errors on what went wrong on the terminal. And then it was like name error, JSONify is not defined. And okay level like here also name. It wants like we're trying to do a get method to our master route, and then it returned like a debugger because it found an error. But that's why we also are able to see all those errors like being shown in front of our face. Ne? Yeah. So, but if we had like set our option to production, like we were going to see like this error from terminal here, but we were not going to see it from here. Here it was just gonna say like there's a problem.
Sure.
You understand?
Okay. Yeah.
Alright, sharp. So now we imported those guys and we saved. Let's refresh, and there we go. Message hello master. Right? So that means what our resource is working. Everything is nice. Our application is running with the new setup. So now we can start setting up other things. Ne? Let me see. What we can do now, what we need to do is the init and the config endpoints. All right, so let's see. Mhm. So parameters, the API is like an app. So the app is where we're passing in our server. And it's like a prefix all routes with a value, e.g. version 1 or version 2020. Oh, nice. Okay, so basically what they're saying here is this, ne? Or here, the parameters that we are passing here, so we're passing it in like our object, our server object, which one I obviously code documentation about the app object. But they're also saying what, like if we say maybe let's say like API like this, so instead of like just being the master, it's gonna be API/master. Okay, let's save and test it out because I have a theory at the moment. So if I read it correctly, it's gonna work. So if you refresh here, it should say not found, but it says value error. Okay, value error instead of not found. And then if you say API/master, hey, let's save instead of like refresh or enter. And Leona says value error. Okay, cool. Why do you say value error? You need a slash. Okay, still saying value error.
Go back where you were just now and the code.
Oh, you know what, man? With this. Like, so normal automatic slash is like, for this guy is like the root. So this guy has a parent. You see? Refresh. Nope, still an error. That's fine.
It says it must start with a hash, isn't it? What that thing is saying?
Okay.
Go back to the browser where you saw the error, the value error.
Okay.
URLs must start with the leading slash.
Yeah. Timo. I just edited it now.
You edited. Oh, okay.
Let's try it.
So why is it complaining about that?
Okay, so like what I had was
okay.
remember like when something is omega slash like this, name.
Oh yeah.
It basically instructed people like like this is like the beginning of the beginning. So like self challenge for add resource URLs and quarks. Alright, so the resource and then URLs and endpoints. Okay, so URLs and endpoints and the class arguments to be forwarded to the constructor of the resource. So okay, so let's see. More the like you can have a hello world as like slash and also can be a slash hello. Oh nice. So you can like sort of like send the same resource to multiple locations by URL. So that's nice. And then go for the like add resource and then foo and then like foo and then the like endpoint is foo. So I think this helps when you want to generate like automatic documentation.